Hello friends and welcome back to the Dagger Knives channel. My name is Brian and today we have a very cool limited edition version of one of our favorite knives in the lineup. But first, I do want to know what you guys are carrying. Let me know what you've got packed in the pocket. Today for me, it's a little bit of a show off getting into what we have today with the Cyclops series of knives here. This is the Murametz, probably one of the coolest little OTFs I've had the pleasure of handling. But let me know, like I said, let me know what's in your pockets today. I am very interested to find out. But for today, we are taking a look at the Navaja Compact. Again, one of my absolute favorite knives in our lineup. This is part of a dedicated line of knives that is inspired by history. So we have the Corso, the Cinquedea, the Higonakami, and now the Navaja. And then this is the Navaja Compact, which is, continues the same direction and everything. And it was just created after very many requests from our community to create a smaller version or a more compact version of the Navaja. Now, don't fret if you are a fan of the full-size Navaja, the Navaja Classico. It will return very soon. But as for this one, let's take a dive in for a closer look while I go over some more details on this incredible EDC. So we're going to start off with the unboxing experience. With most of our dagger knives, this is what you will see. So we have a box here with a magnetic flap. On the side, you do have the model number as well as name and other information. Once you open the knife, you are greeted with some of our social media and our website, as well as the knife itself, nestled safely in some closed cell foam. And then we have the knife itself. Now, you guys have already seen it a little bit, but here up close, you can certainly take a look at that beautiful carbon fiber there. So this is a composite carbon fiber. It is a 3D carbon fiber, if you will. On the purple here, it does create that dynamic play of light and depth that you see here. And that's why one of the reasons why I absolutely love this knife. One of the reasons it's one of my the favorites in the lineup. So as I alluded to with the Murametz, this knife is part of the Cyclops series, which is a special direction within dagger knives built around the signature Cyclops pocket clip, which has over time developed its own design language inside of the brand. The name Cyclops comes directly from the dagger community. The clip is shaped, has a unique D shape in there, and it kind of resembles the one-eyed character for which it's named. And it just became so distinctive that the knife enthusiasts themselves gave it that name, and then it was later adopted by the brand. This clip first appeared in 2022 on the Yaga model, and that marked the start of this new design direction. Now, it does have this unique Bowie blade shape, which is just an absolute strong characteristic, which gives you precise control while offering very clean and confident cutting ability. Let's go ahead and go over some specs on the knife. So we are looking at a 3.5-inch cutting edge. The blade at its tallest point is 0.95 inches, and we are using 3.2 millimeter blade stock. Your handle is 4.75. At its tallest point, we're at 0.95, and it does slim down here to 0.62. Now, our thicknesses, we have a couple of variants here we want to talk about. So because we do have a button here, as well as a safety switch, at your thickest point, we are at 0.52, which is right here in that button area. The rest of the knife here is at 0.48, so under half an inch. And then with your pocket clip, we are at 0.63. Overall is 8.5 inches, 3.5 ounces, and then a very slender, almost gentlemanly carry profile of 1.22 inches. Now, I have discussed that this knife is probably one of my favorites in the design catalog currently. This knife is absolutely phenomenal to use, fun to fidget with, using a button actuated liner lock, so you guys can see that liner in there. You can push it out of the way of that. If you are worried about accessing that button when the blade is open, you do have a sliding lock there that does prevent you from closing the knife. And then again, that very fidgety action that you would know and love from dagger knives. Comfort is on a whole nother level with this knife. The way it fits in the hand, it is a very symmetrical handle, and it's just a simple, clean design with a lot of chamfering. And even though it's slab-sided, so even though it's flat-sided, it is very comfortable to use. You do have a simulated kind of finger choil here. You can definitely choke up into that choil if you would like to. However, you do not need to. You can certainly stay back, but if you, like I said, if you do want to choke up there to get a little bit more control, you certainly have that ability. Let's go ahead and jump into our close-ups here and take a look at this knife up close and personal, so we can really take a look at that mesmerizing carbon fiber that we have in here. You guys can see how that light definitely plays around in there. Of course, you have the Dagger D logo there and the lasered into the pivot. A little more close up on that button, so you do have a little bit of jimping on that button, which does allow, or excuse me, on that lock, which does allow it to easily slide. Like I said, nicely chamfered all the way around on this knife. We do have T6 hardware. We do have a lanyard loop down here on the bottom. You can see in there you do have some weight savings on the steel liners. And we have a titanium pocket clip. Very nice in and out of the pocket. And that is that signature Cyclops look there. And then, of course, more of the same on this end. Of course, as always, perfectly centered. And then here inside you can see that lockup. Now these are individually numbered. This one is number 6 of 150. So the purples there were 150, and then of the black there were 148. These knives do use M390 blade steel. Of course, that beautiful Bowie blade shape and big old clip point. Machine satin. There you can see the production date and the blade steel. Absolutely gorgeous. And there we can see a nice little close-up of that edge. Really well finished edge as well. Nice single mode of operation. You have a very intuitive high-mounted flipper with lots of jimping that works very well. Allows you to get a ton of leverage on that flipper and then just easily rocket that blade out. Absolutely fantastic knife. Like I said, I really do enjoy it quite a lot. And yeah, this is one I have enjoyed carrying and using. So I'm going to really look forward to the cut test that we've got coming up right now. All right, here we go, guys. Up on the chopping block, of course, the typical stuff that we go through here. We have just some standard webbing, just nylon webbing. We're going to do simple pass-through cuts with that and just kind of a utility standpoint. Again, not too hard, very clean, very simple to cut. And then, of course, you can do the little wrap around here, and it's going to very easily push through that. This stuff never is a problem. Just kind of shows that the factory edge is quite sharp. Now, that being said, I have carried this knife and used it. I haven't used it a ton because that wouldn't be fair, but it has had a little bit of use. But, of course, M390, properly heat treated, it's going to have no issues. And we have a bit of paracord here, 550 cord, and then just doing some simple rock cutting there. I mean, it just pushes right through this stuff. No issues at all. Again, not something that's necessarily a test of the edge, but just a test of how sharp it came from the factory. Moving into something a little bit more difficult, we have a little bit more of a load-bearing rope here, and this will just simply, again, pretty much almost push cut through it. Let's see if we can push cut through it. Yeah, we just push cut right through it. No real issues there. And this is a very slender knife. It does have a tall, flat grind and a fairly thin edge, so it will honestly just decimate most of these tests. We found that out with the little guy last week, or on my last video, where it just absolutely decimated because of that thinness behind the edge. And this isn't a whole lot different here, just again with that really nice high flat grind. Now we are going to go into the kind of the nemesis for most of these knives, and that is this natural cordage. This stuff is typically murder on an edge and kind of hard to get through, but I had a feeling, yep, this one's going to handle it pretty well. We got not a very big piece here, but again, it is not really having much trouble going through it. We do have to saw it just a little bit. I've got this final little piece here. We'll just do a quick sawing motion, get right through there, get this cleaned up, and we'll be right back. All right, then moving in to the hose section here. Got just some small fuel hose, small diameter fuel hose. Does not provide much resistance at all, honestly. Because I'm actually doing this from a seated position, so I don't have a ton of force that I'm able to put behind the edge here. But I'm just using that belly and helping do some push cuts. You guys can see here, we'll kind of focus in on this. They are very, very clean, very smooth cuts. So zero issues with that hose. And we'll just slowly progress up. And really no issues at all going through this hose either. Again, same thing, very clean, very precise cuts with zero issues. We've got a lot of blade length there and just some really, really good behind the edge thickness. And then, of course, a very traditional blade shape, which is known for its cutting ability. Here we have a little bit more of a reinforced hose. This one is going to be a little harder to get through just because of its size, and then also the fact that it is a double reinforced hose. But again, it's not really providing a ton of resistance for the knife. Just having to use a little bit more of that belly, a little bit more of that blade length, and just a little bit more pressure. But again, super clean cuts. You guys can see that. And I mean, the edge is holding up beautifully. Still slicing this, I mean, just with honestly zero effort. I'll have to go ahead and prepare the next ones really quickly, and I will be right back with you. Now we're just going to simply go ahead and pop these two here, and this should be fairly simple, just a quick press down. And yeah, these standard zip ties don't ever really cause any issues. And again, same thing here. We're just going to put a little bit of pressure back on our thumb, push down, and just pop right through those double zip ties. Now, last thing here, we're going to go ahead and cut through, again, this larger diameter hose. And it is usually more of a test just because you need a little more blade length to get in through this cut. But as you can see, the knife is still plenty sharp, really having no issues cutting through here, using the same part of the blade that we've been using this whole time, using that belly of the blade, and going through and really making some nice, clean cuts. Both sides there, you guys can see that. So really great job overall on this knife. Let's go ahead and close out this show and get on to the next one. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this was absolutely impressive. I know you couldn't feel the way this thing was cutting, but man, I'm telling you what, if anything, if it could get through the camera on how cleanly and easily this thing sliced through all of the tests we had for it today, I think you'd be wanting to pick one up too. Now, like I said, this is a limited run of under 300 pieces total for the entire run. So make sure you guys check them out. If you're able to find one in stock, check the comments down below, check the description down below, and check out our links for our retailers that would have such a thing in stock. Anyway, guys, we will catch you on the next one. Until then, stay sharp.